I am Matt Simpson. I graduated from ASU in 2001 with a degree in journalism and a minor in history. I am currently a self-employed marketing consultant. I mostly work with B2B software startups and B2B professional services firms.
Did you know that you always wanted to do business while you were at ASU, or is that something that you've encountered later on after graduation?
Yeah, not at all. I started as a journalism major and intended to work in newspapers. Worked in newspapers for about 6 or 7 years, and then decided I wanted to have more say over my earnings and more say over the stability of my career, because newspapers were going through a hard time. And that's where I made the shift into working in the business world.
What would you say is your favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, so I don't want to have an office. I don't want to have a boss. I do not want to have responsibilities that someone else decides for me. So my business is very much built around the idea that I can manage myself and my business how I want to. So my favorite thing about entrepreneurism in that way is the flexibility and the freedom that it offers versus working a more traditional 9-to-5 type job.
What does your typical workday look like?
A typical workday, I don't know that there is a typical workday. I do my best to maintain something like a typical workday, but that doesn't always work out given how my world works. But generally speaking, I am most productive in the mornings. So I'll work at a coffee shop for the first few hours of the day, usually, then head home for lunch. And then in the afternoon is when I take more of my meetings. So if I have sales calls or if I'm meeting with a client, I try to do those by Zoom in the afternoon when I'm a little less project-oriented, deep focus-oriented, and more conversational. And usually try to wrap up around 3 or 4 in the afternoon so that I can have my evening to myself.
Now that you're an entrepreneur yourself, what qualities have you discovered that every entrepreneur should have?
Qualities that I would encourage other entrepreneurs to develop would be risk aversion, of course. You have to be very comfortable with the idea that money is not going to come every 2 weeks. You're also going to have to be broadly curious and broadly skilled, I guess, because if your computer breaks, you don't have an IT department. If you need to figure out insurance, you don't have an HR department. You don't have an accounting department to send invoices. So you really have to, in addition to whatever your vocational skill is, for me, I'm a marketing consultant. So in addition to that skill, I also just have to have a broad set of business skills to be able to read contracts or to be able to run accounts payable, that sort of thing. So broad curiosity is super important as an entrepreneur.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? Do you see yourself still doing the marketing consulting, or do you see yourself steering away from that a little bit?
No, I just hit my 10-year anniversary on my own as a marketing consultant this year, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. I would say that there's minor shifts to my business from time to time. You really have to stay strategic and thoughtful about how you're doing your work. And so occasionally I do shift a little bit, but they're more minor shifts than major. So for example, over the last year or two, I've been doing a lot more mentorship of young business people, especially young marketers who don't have a marketer in-house. So I'll do mentorship and coaching for them as part of my engagements with my clients. So I could see that becoming more of my business as time goes on, but I don't expect there to be any major changes. I love what I do. I can't imagine ever going back to corporate America.
Is there anything that you would do differently in your business journey?
In theory, I would not have spent 6 or 7 or 8 years in the newspaper industry. I would have gone right to the business world and majored in business as an undergrad rather than getting an MBA later. That said, in practice, it was fun. I enjoyed my 20s. I enjoyed working in the newspaper business. Going back to get my MBA was fun, and everything has worked out the way, not that I planned, but the way that it worked out. And I do really well, and I'm very grateful for the journey, even if it wasn't the most direct one to entrepreneurship and business ownership.
What advice would you give to somebody just starting off their business?
A lot of folks that I meet are entering into consulting or freelancing almost by accident. Maybe they get laid off from their job, or they're in between things or what have you. And so they don't build it for the long term. They're basically trying to cover their bills and make a little extra scratch until the next job comes along. And that's no way to build a business. You have to, even if it's just a lifestyle business, even if it's just a freelance or consulting type business, you have to build from the beginning as if you're sticking it out for the long haul. Otherwise, you never really gain traction. And then when you do go back to corporate America, you do it by default rather than because you want to. So when I think about starting from the beginning, you really need to think about what are your business development efforts going to look like? What are your learning and personal development efforts going to look like? How are you going to invest in yourself and your business up front and for the long haul rather than take a project here, take a project there? I'm easy to find online. My name is Matt Simpson, or if you Google me, Matt Meanders will often come up sooner. And on LinkedIn, I can be found as Matt Meanders or Matt Simpson. Happy to connect with ASU students or anyone else who's interested in the startup scene or just entrepreneurship in general.